Okay, good morning. This is Simon with Trading Perform Coaching. It is Friday morning, the 12th. There we are. I'm caught up on dates now. Really quick, if, of course, I don't have this, but I will have it up secondly. There you go. So, for those who have asked, this is how you get a hold of me if you'd like to visit the room and you fit with the team. We are happy to let you try out the room and then we'll evaluate from there. Tradingperform at gmail.com is how you find out. Um, Send me a little bit about your trading history if you'd like to join, and then we'll go from there. Really quickly, I've got to put up our next favorite thing. There we go. Okay, if you'll take a minute to read this, basically, this is for educational purposes only. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Trades do lose money, right? It's day trading, it's not day winning, right? There are losses. Please make sure you can afford to take losses and that you have a good risk management plan, right? Past performance, again, is not indicative of future results. Okay, so number one, you'll see that we're getting more and more away from the daily time frame, but it's still important to start integrating that into the decision making process. But more importantly is, what do the trades look like on the edge, and how do they set up, and how do we take advantage of those trades to make more money, right? Just a quick housekeeping rule. Um, so, in order to keep our charts all on the same page, and Quentin confirmed for me this again this morning, if you'll put all your high time frame charts here, I will do this. Data limiting, 50 days. If you'll put all your high time frame charts, like the 67 tick, onto a 50-day time frame, so that means the CL 25 tick, 50 days, GC 33 tick, 50 days. If we will keep them all on the same time frame, I have been getting feedback that we all match on that. So that's what I am doing. Yeah, I adjusted by one tick on the lower. CL started moving faster and wider ranging, so I needed to add one tick. And I was just playing with it, but I might as well leave it there because I agree with it that it should be one tick higher. It reduces the noise ever so slightly. If the range comes back in, we'll drop back down, but right now 7 tick is appropriate. I believe on that. So just the other piece of housekeeping, 7 ticks. And then on these charts here, I'm going to set all these charts really quickly to data limiting, and we're going to set them all to 3 days. Okay, that should give you 3 days to have data limiting. 3 days. And now we should come close to at least looking similar. And then GC, which I don't have on the chart, obviously. Again, days to load, 3 days. Okay. And then this morning I did take the trade. So just like everyone else, I run into my own constraints. I had to leave and take my daughters to school. This is my P&L on the GC trade. Just to get into this really quick. GC. Just under $100, $90, which is fine. Right, that's a good way to start the day. It would have been worth a lot more. We're obviously at 2025 at this point, so I want to set up how this trade, both Quentin and I identified it. Okay, so I'm going to go step by step. So first of all, here that was painful because that really should have been a $2,000 trade. It's all right. Anyways, okay. let's start with GC over here. And let's start with GC over here. Okay. So the first thing I identified was that there was an apex all the way back here from 5.5, right? That had gotten stopped right over here. So this is right, has to be right at 6:45 because I didn't walk in before 6:45. So that's the first thing that caught my attention. We took out the stops, right? Item number one. So from there, so obviously once this traps back in, Quentin, this is where you made your mistake. You actually should have added there, not subtracted, in this particular case. That's okay. You didn't. Just write it down in your notes. You'll get it better. Um, but what Quentin had the ability to do is stack from the bottom and the top and actually end up with a double-sized trade to push. I mean, it was really, your entry was picture perfect, right? And then, so that's step one, is the potential of the trap and going into the stop out protocols for an apex to get stopped out, right? So then when you come over here, so that's step one, is you recognize the potential for the trap, and B, that we're stopping out another apex off to the left. So then number two, you come over here, and this actually took place much earlier, so I didn't see this here. So I want to highlight the trades set up as we're behind that 2008 down to this 2005 area. So this is where I was getting long right here. And the reason I got long here, so if you're not following Matt T and his trade setups, in my opinion, it's a must, right? And what we ended up with here, okay, is first of all, so had I been up at 4:45, stopping out and coming back in with a divergent bar, so this is how this would have worked for me. Entry, I don't think I got my risk off on this, so I'm going to just count this as a stop, even though it went up. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have scaled it anyways. Stop, apex trap with divergent bar star this time, long again, and my stop's going to be down here. And what I'm trying to do is get this to pop off the bottom. I'm willing to take these stops are relatively small. They're $150 stops, right? If you're on the full contract, 07 to 0570, that's $130. I'm willing to burn $130 on those trades, right? So then you come in with the first trap. It obviously does not trap because it trapped all the way over here is where the bar actually set. At 2014 is where it had to trade. So it's actually right here, 2014.10. That's the bar that triggered the trap on the 33 tick, right? So if you'll look at this trade just in general, right? Now you know that you have the potential for an apex trap off the higher time frame, pushes up, right? And then you come back to your 50-60. Right, so this is prime time area. Even if you don't know about the rest of our algos, prime time area where a trader would look for a trade anyways. And then I saw the triangle down, pink bar, and that was enough for me to either take the stop, which would have been again $130 to $150, or get the triangle up. Unfortunately, right when that triangle up came in, I had to take my daughters to school, and we were having econ come up, and I just didn't feel like flying blind. And that was a beautiful trade, right? And it all started down here, in my opinion, at 4:40 in the morning, and the stop out for the trade. Now, I want to go to one other piece. Let's say you'd been trading the 33 tick, there would have been another apex stop out, okay? And I'm going to show you where that stop out. What's the question mark? Sorry, Matt. What are you questioning? Oh, 7 tick on CL. I'm just adding a tick because the volatility's gone up. It'll reduce the nice. You don't have to. It's a 1 tick adjustment. Yeah, Matt. I'm just jumping 1 tick. The volatility's been pretty high. It'll reduce the noise. You can stay on the 6 tick. It's just easier on my eyes. That's all. So it should not see a significant difference between the two. Okay, just a little bit less noise. It just slows it down a hair. So when you're over here and you get this, so this stop out area here, meaning we're looking at this block. So we're looking from this 2016 all the way until this gets an orthodox close underneath, right? So technically this whole area underneath here was valid for a long until such time as this bar closed. And then, of course, it took out another apex to the left. So I want to look at that stop out process and the price action behind that 2016.90 and how you would have fared. Okay. So, because it's legitimate, because sometimes you can't tell which one is going to work and which one isn't. So, really, that takes us from right to the right of this. Okay. And if we go look at that, so let's leave some disclaimers. First of all, I'm not going to trade it in Asia, so I'm not even going to worry about everything to the left of this. Just doesn't matter. This is really about London Open. Okay. So if you look there, once you get the extension down, obviously you could have taken the divergent bar, it would have paid. But here, so this is where the trading became problematic in GC overnight, right? If you look at the potential trade setups just off the 6 tick, so you want to kind of go down through your checklist. Obviously, an apex trap is valuable, but even the apex traps didn't necessarily work. The divergent bars there didn't work. So if you look through here, right? So remember, gold trades. Gold needs velocity to work in these slow meltdown markets. Like I really hate oil and gold in the European session. Why? Because, and I think Quentin, you'll verify this, you end up with some days where it's one bar up, one bar down, all the way down through here. So if you look at this correctly, I'll show you exactly what this would have been. This would have been, if you didn't wait for the triangle up, and even if you did wait for the triangle up, you had difficulty. But if you didn't wait for the triangle up through this, there's no other way to describe it. You just got shattered, right? If you did star up, if you did uh, divergent bar, if you did pink bar, none of it worked. It would have been X number of stops. Right. So some markets trade well overnight, some don't. And I'm going to go with GC is really hard on the small time frame overnight. When I look at it more and more in the overnight session, it just gets hard, right? So what I would be looking for, so then what I would do is I'd go back and go, what what does work, what works correctly, right? And if you look through here, what actually worked correctly, so that's where you have to stop and move back for a second. So I can tell you what worked. Star down, star up, triangle up, worked, right? So what I would do is I would take that pattern, right? And I'd go to another night without knowing the data on it, right? I'm going to come back over here. So when I look over here, even within Asia, triangle down, triangle up, at least it lifted, right? Would be the way I would use to describe that. And then if I come back to like the prior Thursday night in European session, so I'm telling you how I resolved the problem, right? I'm going to go back and look to see what worked. So see here, triangle down, triangle up, and also the star down at the low, followed by triangle up should work like this right here, but preferably closer to the low than the high. You didn't really have to carry the momentum, right? So I'm going to go through various nights because I know the night shift is different from the day shift, right? So if I come over here and I look through here, I'm going to go what worked. Again, 728, triangle down, triangle up. I'm going to hunt, triangle down, triangle up. That one didn't work. That would have been a stop at 707. Triangle down, triangle up, off the low. Clearly worked prior to. Right now, did other stuff work in there? Sure. But what I would be doing, right. So what I'd be doing is having a separate playbook if I was trading the European session and going, well, what works in Europe? What exactly do I need to see? And here I can show you something here. Let's do this really quick. 60 days back. Let it load really quick. Yep, I'd agree with that. I think you need the triangle down or the star down outside the channel on gold in the European session. But if you go back a little bit further, this is roughly 60 days back. So looking in the overnight session here, oops, sorry. So here, right? Again, I'm going to ask, So you'll notice, so here's where the frustrating part comes in, right? You'll notice over here, you don't get any triangles down and all the algos worked beautifully, right? So I'm going to tell you what the distinction is between this working here and it not working right now. GC has a distinct personality difference above 2000 than it does below 2000 because over here everything's working, right? Purple bar star, um, down triangle star, triangle up. Actually, now that I think about it, that's still your best bet going for giving you a lift. And if you look at the subsequent nights, what's important to realize is that each night has a different character to it, right? So, like when you look over here, right, if this is 3 a.m., triangle down, star up, like I would have taken triangle down, star up just with a 1 bar stop. And I would have gotten stopped anyways. I would have never kicked that trade out, right? But then when I come over here, I would have gone long right here. Star down, triangle up. That's definitely a long for me. And you'll see that pattern is repeating over and over and over again. That star down or triangle down, right as you're approaching about 5 a.m., and then it gets stuffed, repeats. It repeated back then, it repeats now. And it's the one thing that is, as you look at this, let me go to the next day. This is the same thing, right? This is Wednesday, 4 a.m., right? So I'm looking for that triangle down or star down concept. There's triangle down, star up, triangle up, and there's your push. So guess what? For me, if I can find 3 over random space and time that work over and over again, now I know exactly which algo I'm looking for to get long, not taking into account where the traps are on the higher time frame. Is I'm going to go, okay, I need star down or triangle down, followed by some variation of star up and or triangle up for my entry, and then my stop will be this whole block, just like this morning. So see this? So this is back on 4:15 or 3:15 or whatever it was. It was over a month ago, right? So here's this morning, looking at the same idea or concept. This time it came in a 4 bar concept over here, and it came in a 3 bar concept right there at 7:05, right? So that's what I would be looking for. That's easy peasy, solves my problem, and I make money with it. And I only need one trade to make money with it. So that's how I would do that. Any questions about that, Quentin? That makes sense to you? You now know exactly what you're looking for. Go back and put in 500 days and go test the whole European session. It should be pretty quick. And now you have a very good idea of what you're looking for with a very high win rate. And it solves the problem. And much of the time, look how big the kick out goes to the right. So that's my 2 cents. Now I want to cover the CL trade that Matt and I took yesterday. So same idea conceptually, at least. Let me replace this chart here real quick. Daily dates to load. That is my small time frame. 3 days. Sure. No argument. Not on that triangle down, my friend. That triangle down, star up, paid you over and over. Or star down, triangle up. Like it gave you 1 or 2 stops, but at that point I don't care. Like when the RR is 3 and 4 and 5-1 on that setup, let's just take it and burn. What the trap on the higher time frame told you is where the huge extension can come from. So here's what you want to write down in terms of your note taking: is that you got the trap off the base, right? So now, Quentin, you want to go back and ask yourself, what were the motivating factors that caused you to come out of the trade, right? But not in a negative mindset, right? So for me, what I'd write down is I had the trap, but for me, I had a choice. I either take the trade, and if the econ comes out for some reason it's negative, and I respond to it, and I get swept, I'd be really pissed, right? Because I wasn't here to manage it or look at it or anything else. For whatever reason, that means something to me, and so I said, okay, I'm leaving, I'm closing, right? The other factor and so there's 2-tier factor of that. I want to pay attention to my kids while they're in the car with me and my driving, and I generally can't do that if I have any kind of size on in my account. I don't do a very good job of paying attention to my children when that happens. Okay, so for me, That's a values decision on whether I'm going to stay in the trade or not, right? So you have to go back. Let's say I stayed in the trade, but then I exited when I got that 14 bar up, right? So for me, that bar means more than the original entry. What that bar means is I should have stacked that trade and pushed that trade out, right? So now you've got to ask yourself, what was your belief system in closing that trade instead of adding to the trade? What is your belief system behind that? And there could be a lot of things, both negative and positive, that come up. And you don't have to do anything about any of them. You just want to be aware, oh, I closed that trade when that happens because I believe once we've run X amount of distance, I need to close the trade. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But if you look at that belief and go, oh, no, that's a wrong belief, right? That's a belief that causes me um, pain or costs me money. Now I have to examine that belief and ask, was this belief true or not true, and go through the data, right? So now you have a belief, right? And then you have empirical evidence. You got to keep measuring that belief against the empirical evidence to ask, is your belief about what you're doing true? And while it sounds very easy to describe, it's actually quite a challenging process. Okay, so next, let's go do CL. How am I doing on time? I have just enough time to do CL. So yesterday, CL. First thing that you will notice about CL is it did not run massively, right? It just did not run massively. Okay, so if you look, let me pull this chart in. That is your apex trap, going back to the 5th. Okay, there are more apex traps underneath there. There's one down here, roughly. There's another one down here. Okay, those are where the potential apex traps are. So next is we roll down. All our efforts are going to be concentrated right in this little area right here. This is where the trap occurs, roughly. And to the right of this is where the stop occurs. Okay, so to the right of this is where the stop occurs. And this is where the stop out occurs. So behind that 7094, we go into stop out protocol. And on the trap back in, we go into trapped back in protocol. Okay, so now if we switch gears, now if we switch gears and we go into that protocol, we go CL protocol, we go back to yesterday morning. There we go. So starting here, this is where I get my stop out. So generally, my rule of thumb on CL is if I get star bars, I want to go long. So I go long here. I have, let's call that 18 ticks because it looks like a long bar. Did I get my 1-to-1? I'm usually trying to scale at 15, just under 1-to-1, but that's 02 to 17, which gives me 15 ticks hypothetically, right? So, but let's just take it one step further. Let's just say I lose money here. Instead of getting the scale, I just get a full stop. It's easier. Assuming the stop is easier than trying to nitpick whether we got one tick filled or not filled, right? But then I'm going to come right back in over here on this star. I'm long, right? I know on CL the stars pay. Now, what am I looking for in addition to that? So I know this is where I trigger, right? This is where I trigger that 71.22. That is where that triggers the trap back in, I believe. Okay, here's where I screw up. It's either 22 or 17. I apologize, but I'm pretty sure it was 22. I did not add on the 22 because in my brilliance, I said, and I'm working very hard on this, we are going to get a 50-60 pullback, and I'll add at 71.10 to 7100, right, against the low. Okay, never got the opportunity. Therefore, I was not stacked on this trade. All I had was my original entry, and then what I was looking for over here because I wanted triangle down, triangle up for the extension. Well, I get my first triangle down, triangle up. It's all the way up at the top of the channel, and I did not feel like going long there anymore. Okay, so I got a big fat bag of nothing, right, on the stack, but I still had an incredible trade from where I entered this trade, right, which was 70.81 or 70.83. I forget exactly what the number was. This thing runs almost 100 ticks. That's $1,000 a contract, guys, and it gave us almost no heat. Gave us the turn, and let me tell you why I screwed this up. I did great. I got almost 100 ticks. I think my best scale was like 71.81 on this on the last quarter, and I got 80 ticks on this. I got 80, 50. I got 80, 150 ticks. I think were my scales on this. I can't swear to it, but had I added like I was supposed to right here at 71.22, I would have been double sized with a um, and there's other things I could have done to help me out with the stop in terms of structuring it. But the whole point was to add enough here with a reasonable stop that I could have ended up taking that another 50 ticks on double size, right? And that's where I made my mistake. So um, just keep recycling the idea. I don't have the CL ad as fine tuned as I do on NQ, but I'll get that taken care of. I am hunting triangle down, triangle up, star down, triangle up within 3 bar and or 4 bar combos, depending on the speed of the market, right? For reversals in CL, NQ, and in GC, all of them, right? I'm willing to take the losses on those on the smaller time frame, and I'm trying to marry my higher time frame to my lower time frame. And that is it. That is the name of the game. On NQ, we are gapping right to just above or right at Friday, Thursday's high. We'll see where we go. We have econ in 30 minutes. Does anyone have any questions? This is what we are working for, guys. You only need one of these big trades a day to get paid. Holy moly. And the Sean response, he came back. How big was the fish, dude? Mm, okay, that's all I got, guys. So let's just shrink this down. There's no questions, and get ready to make some money. On CL, I've got an apex trap potential to be stopped out at 71.84, just above it here. I'll snap it to the high. 71.86. Means they got 71.86. And we are open. Let's see what she does, if anything. And my ES appears to be working right now, which is great. Hey, are we? If you're not matching, if you'll just send me a message so we can see. I'll do it. Actually, you know what? I'll do better. Once everyone's aligned on the time frames at 11, I'll send out a survey to see if everyone's matching. Anyways, that's the market preview for today, guys.